it all set up where I molded the first set of landing gear, but for some reason my camera didn't want to cooperate. So I finally got it figured out, had to reformat the hard drive and the camera. And on the other video I had everything all laid up and cut out already, the toe and the peel ply. So you're going to have to bear with me for a few minutes while I cut the pieces, and I'll explain the molding process on the landing gear. Anybody can do this. I learned this basically all off of YouTube. I want to thank Paul Taylor and Wendy Ertnowski for the videos that they posted. It's been very helpful. All the products that I use are available from Aerospace Composites, George Sparr. I'm using 50K toe. It's 1/2 inch wide. Takes about 25 feet to do a landing gear. So we'll cut some up here. I already had 3 pieces cut. This, we're going to do the 40 gear. So it doesn't take quite 25 feet, I remember now. We need 13 pieces this long. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the last piece, and that's enough toe for the 40 gear. If you listen to the background, I'm listening to Wendy videos. So now you saw that how long it takes to cut up those pieces, no big deal. Next comes the peel ply. This is a nylon cloth. It's made just for this. So I just cut a piece that's going to go over the mold when I get it laid up. Back with my molding stuff here. Alright. I would suggest that you put down some newspaper or paper of some type when you're doing this, because it's really messy. The glue is sticky and it goes everywhere. So we'll use that. Now, I have a machinist vise. Now let's talk about the mold. The mold is made from balsa wood, basically in this shape. I just kind of copied the shape of a landing gear. And the part that comes out of it looks like this. And the thickness of the part is determined by how thick you make the sides. And that can be varied by, I'm using 64th plywood. This is made of balsa wood. 2 pieces of quarter, one on each side. Then it's filled end grain in between. Then sheeted with 64th plywood. Then I build the sides up with 64th plywood. Takes about 6 layers to go around the outsides. You can see there's a width here, and plus I have a strengthening rib in the center of the landing gear. Then Z-epoxy. Z-epoxy the whole thing. Get it sanded real smooth. Then it gets 4 coats of the Part-All Paste Wax number 2. It's 100% Carnauba wax. It's available from ACP. Then comes the PVA. That's polyvinyl alcohol. Relatively cheap. Brush it on. 2 coats. That's a good starting point. George Sparr is the contact, or Justin Sparr. And Justin and George are both control line flyers, so if you have any questions, they'll be glad to help you out. Now I'm using the ACP Easy Lam resin. This resin is a 2-to-1 resin, so basically I took a cup and put a line on it. I'm going to use that for a measuring cup. Pour it up to the line, 1 part. You can see none of this stuff is really that difficult. It's just a matter of knowing how to do it. And there's the second part. Got the lid back on it so we don't have a big mess on the bench. Then it gets 1 of the activator up to the line. So now we have 2-to-1 in that bucket, in that little cup. I go to Harbor Freight and I buy a gazillion acid brushes for $2. It's ridiculous. The hobby shop wants 15 cents a piece. Go to Harbor Freight and get these acid brushes for $2. A gazillion of them in a bag. My vacuum pump came from Harbor Freight. It was under $100. It flows only 2 CFM, but it'll pump down 25 inches of mercury. Takes a while, but plenty for what we're doing. Anyway, mix the resin up really good. And just like when I showed how I mixed the, did the wheel pants, first thing you want to do is paint the mold. It doesn't matter if you stay inside the lines because it ain't going to stick anyway.
But the biggest thing we had, the biggest thing that I thought was a big plus, I'll call tuning.
So now we've painted the mold.
Now what tuning involves, for any two-cycle,
And take your toe,
there's a very predictable way to tune for more power.
and I put it down in the
I'm trying to make
reinforcement rib first, then one on the outside, one on the inside.
I think anybody can use. But you have this advantage.
Pull it down real good.
And what the advantage here is,
The trick is to get the resin saturated. That's why infusion molding is so neat, and I'm going to be doing that here. I don't know of anybody doing that in the hobby, but it sure looked like a good way to do. I was watching them do carbon car parts, infusion molding, hoods and things, and that looks like to be the way to go. So the next wheel pants that I do are going to be infusion molded. Now I filled that in real good, filled the space in. The nice thing about making your own gear and your own wheel pants is you can make them as light or as heavy or any shape that you want. I got kind of tired of buying parts that somebody else thought, you know, but was what I wanted. And my stuff is close, but not exact. So now I paint a coat of resin over the whole thing. You don't want to get any dry spots, so you want to put plenty of resin on it. Now this is not your typical Bondo polyester resin. This is epoxy. And it's extremely strong. Extremely strong. And we'll put another layer of tow on.
Things that made the tuning a lot easier. Well, now what we did last year when the Navanta was new before
this is 50K tow. Now I have a couple of rolls of 2K tow, and yeah, I could do this with 2K, but it would take me forever. There'd be a gazillion times I'd have to load the mold with 2K. 2K is more for propellers, small parts. When I make the spinners, back plates for the spinners, that's what I'll probably use, is the 2K. I got a good deal on it on eBay and thought, well, can't hardly pass it up for what they wanted. I also bought a 4-pound bag of chopped carbon, and I used the chopped carbon in some pieces. And if you remember, I said that I wouldn't sell bell cranks. Well, what happened was I had used some of the chopped carbon in the bell crank, and I put it on my overhead beam and weighted it with 200 pounds. And I'll tell you, when that thing exploded, it went off like glass. It was just unbelievable. It shattered. It was unreal. So there'll be no chopped carbon in bell cranks from now on. Only tow.
Now keep in mind what these things are generic to all two-cycle engines.
Push it down real good.
These are the backbone of
this is not a big deal. I mean, like I said earlier, the thing is just knowing where to get the stuff and the steps to doing it. Nothing in life is hard. All you got to do is want to do it.
Prop pitch, as you add pitch, you add load. And as you add
pitch, load the resin in real good. I want to kind of float it on there because I want good saturation. These landing gear weigh about an ounce. Plenty acceptable. I could make them lighter. Matter of fact, I have one that's under an ounce. And it would be all right for an airplane that was in the low 50s, late 40s. But I wouldn't suggest for an 80-ounce airplane. Last two pieces of tow. Trying to get that all straightened out here. Getting the goofy hairs going crazy here.
To have all four of these factors in some kind of harmony that I could just unbolt this or replicate it, put it into the new Spitfire.
Well, I know anybody that's watching this is capable of doing this, so.
Every plane, let's make
the only problem is the expense of doing it.
To make a chart.
You can't, the stuff. You can't just buy enough to do one landing gear.
This range, they're satisfied if they just get off the ground and can do a loop. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have
that's a problem.
constantly shaving to get that razor edge.
So I'm hoping to recoup some of my funds on selling these. And I get $30 a piece for them, which is relatively inexpensive. I'll be at Brodak's And I'll have some wheel pants and some of my arming switches and hinges. I'm going to do a video on how to install my hinges. I took my airplane up to the RC field, and the guy looked at it, one of the guys who flies third scale airplanes, he looked at it and goes, "Those are pocket hinges, that's amazing." I said, "Yeah, well,
it's going to be underpowered. Overpowered, we're going to have a strong motor."
Paint it all in.
Now, you see the problem with a strong motor is it doesn't necessarily mean it's
For a good finish, the next step is the most important part.
It's going to be a small displacement motor because I could take the 90
for a nice even finish.
It'd be a weak motor.
Get quite a bit of the resin on there because we're going to squeegee it off.
With no head gaskets. So
make sure to get the ends where the wheels attach down the sides really loaded with resin, because it's all going to get squeegeed out anyway.
And you have choices now.
Now, next thing is the peel ply.
If a plane is underpowered,
put the peel ply on it. If you look at it, you can see the fibers in it. You wouldn't want it to look like that when it's finished. So the best thing I found is a 30-second piece of plywood as a squeegee, because it's got some resistance to it. Squeegee it down. You look, it's kind of got a slick finish. Make sure you go around the corners and on the ends.
And up to the point, more pitch in the plow. Up to the point that you've overloaded the motor. All very predictable things. Having a muffler with less restriction, and sometimes you can just take the rubber end off it and get...
I'm hoping that the camera works this time, because I did this once already today, and I kind of hate to lose a second one.
Just to see if it gets better. If it does, open it up 10,000.
But it's a learning curve. It's easier for me to make landing gear than it is for me to run and edit video.
The purpose is to take the weak motor and bring it in line where you're going to be happy with the power output. The only problem with all this is on the other side of
These will be available at Stunhanger Hobby
for the whole year. We have a motor
after the Nationals.
bigger than it needs to be, so we're always looking to detune. We're looking to make more restriction.
Because like I said, I'm hoping to sell some of these at the Nationals and at Brodax so I can fund my trip. Because I just don't have the funds like I used to anymore.
Whether it's a pipe or a muffler, it's just restricting the exhaust.
Okay, it's all been run down. And when that comes out of the mold, in about 6 hours, we'll go ahead and cut the flashing off and run it on the belt sander. This is a 60 landing gear that I had set up. I'm going to be doing a smaller set of wheel pants. The first thing you have to do is you have to make the plug out of wood or whatever and finish it. Then this is going to get waxed and then pushed down into some clay. And then we're going to build a resin mold just like I did on these here. Only on the next ones I'm going to use a keyed system. So I'm going to try to do them in more one-piece than two-piece, even though the seams on these came out really good. I mean, I can't complain about them. I'm pretty happy with them. The bell cranks, I need some more silicone rubber for the bell crank mold. I made a mistake and mixed the rubber wrong. It's a 10-to-1 mix, and I must have got the ratio wrong or didn't get it stirred right, because the bottom half of the mold is hard, top half of the mold is soft. And I molded, I don't know, 5 bell cranks out of this, so it was a good experiment. But we'll get some more rubber, and I'll be a little more tentative on mixing the the chemicals and get a better mold. And I have the 2K toe to work with. And the first thing that you had to do, this bell crank here is a balsa wood bell crank. This is the model for those. Anyway, that's basically how you lay up a landing gear. There's not a whole lot to it. As I said, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of getting all the material. And it costs a little more than $30, but and your time. But anybody can do it, and I'll be happy to tell anybody how to do it or whatever. Doesn't want to buy my gear, it doesn't matter. So let's give this a try and see how this works. And this is just the trailer for the video on building my lost foam beam wing airplane. We'll get to that, and I'll show how I'm going to do that. And that'll be a real interesting project. At least with this camera, I got enough hard drive space that I could make a video 22 hours long. Boy, wouldn't that be something. Watching this stuff for 22 hours. As Ty Martucci said, as long as it's not paint drying, well, we're not going to watch epoxy dry or paint dry. So we'll see you on the next video. Let's see if I can edit this thing and get it posted up.